Hello, everybody. Welcome to this live vlog on how to make life work during this coronavirus crisis. I actually just want to start out with some of the latest information that was put out by the California Department of Public Health. And I actually printed out this information, but you can find this information on the California Department of Public Health website. First of all, California now has 1,468 confirmed cases of the COVID-19. 27 deaths have been reported, and this number is just going to continue rising. But the Department of Public Health actually breaks down by age all of the confirmed cases of COVID-19. Again, that number right now is 1,468 cases. So between the ages of 0 and 17, there's 23 cases. There's 1,066 cases from the ages ranging 18 to 64. And then from ages above 65 years old, we're getting 369 cases. And they list 10 cases under unknown. So I'm not sure exactly what that means. But yeah, you can find more information on that. And actually, right now, there is a press conference from the White House as we're doing this vlog. One of the things that came out of that press conference early on was that the West Coast is getting the hospital ship that Governor Newsom wanted to or was requesting from President Trump. And I believe that ship is going to be docked at the port of Los Angeles. So that's huge. It's going to help alleviate the stresses that some of these hospitals are feeling now. Now, out of all this came the safe at home order. At the local level here in Los Angeles, safe at home order was put out by Mayor Garcetti, basically just encouraging everybody to stay home for for as long as this crisis is going, and that includes working from home and staying home and doing things from home and only going out for the essentials like grocery shopping or getting some medicine, for example. And following that press conference where this order came about, Governor Newsom then declared a stay-at-home order, which encompasses the entire state. So now we have so many people in the state of California that are working from home and doing what they do. Now, one of the things is that there's a lot of people out there, especially content creators, that have been doing this kind of stuff, working from home and being creative from remote locations, and they've been doing that for a while. So I actually have a guest today, a special guest that I actually interviewed for my podcast, The Hungry Mexican, which you have to go check out. It's an awesome interview. Sarah Trott is joining me today on this podcast. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Of course, of course. So how has it been for you living life under the circumstances?
Well, I think for everyone, it's safe to say life has just kind of been flipped upside down. But yeah, now that we have this new normal, this safer at home quarantine, life has really changed for a lot of people. Fortunately for me, this doesn't really feel too different because I am a freelancer and I work from home. So staying at home, working from home really isn't anything new to me, but it's interesting how we're now in this era of self-policing, staying home and doing what's best and safest for the community, which is in fact working from home, not going into public unless it's absolutely necessary, only really going to public places for the essentials, the grocery store, the bank, gasoline, things like that. And I see you've pulled up the order here, which Mayor Garcetti has enacted for the city of Los Angeles, which I'm curious, how did that news hit you, Oscar, when bars and restaurants closed and then now really only just the essentials are open. How are you doing through all of it?
It's uh, I've done remote work for years now, just based on things that I do. My job is about taking care of the digital world, living in the digital realm, if you will. So for work, I've been able to post to social media and post news stories to the website. I work for Fox, Los Angeles, and I've been able to do my work just fine. My wife, on the other hand, she works in news. She's an assignment editor. She has to go to work at this point, but they're trying to figure out if she can also do remote work or whatnot. But for her, she still has to go into that regular routine. Now, reporters, journalists, they do fall under the essential category. So we are required, if we wanted to go out to report on the community as well as report to work. But if you can do it from home, even better. So I've been actually working from home since Thursday of last week, and it's been super easy for me. Now going to the grocery store, for example. The only thing I did that I've done since Thursday is go out to the pet store and get food for my little dog. I didn't think that the pet store was going to be open, so we had to call ahead. Thankfully, they were, and they're going to continue to stay open. So for anybody with pets watching this, yeah, you're still able to get food. You might not be able to take your dog to the groomer, just as I can't go out and get a haircut anymore. As long as this order is enacted statewide, all the barber shops, which are considered non-essential, are closed. Nail salons, this sort of stuff. But then the grocery stores, you're still having to wait in line. Just yesterday, my wife had to go to the grocery store for to get some items, and she was waiting in line about 15 minutes before she had to go in because they were only letting. She said they were letting two people in at a time. So she finally got in. She got what she needed, and then came home. Thankfully, I haven't had to do that yet, actually go to the supermarket and stay in line. But I have seen all the pictures that people have been putting out on social media about it and their experience. And it's just, it's surreal and heartbreaking in a way, just that we have to go through all this. But I think it's really necessary to go through all this. And actually, Sarah, was reading your blog on your website about the coronavirus and just your opinion about it. And one of the
Mhm.
things that was that you mentioned the word selfish. And it just comes
Yeah.
to me. It brings me. It brings up these images that I've seen of these young people that are just partying. Now you yourself, you're very young, and I'm sure you want to go out there and have fun and attend parties and whatnot and hang out with friends. So how are you dealing with that aspect?
I think the most surprising thing that I've noticed has been the perspective shift. When this first presented itself as an issue, when coronavirus was more than just that thing that happened on the cruise ship and was in China, and now it's here in the US affecting people, I think it was just really shocking to see how people completely disregarded this virus and are now taking it seriously. A week ago, it seemed as though people were living as they normally were, going out, kind of embracing this attitude of invincibility that this isn't going to impact me. I'm going to continue with my life. And then now I think we're really seeing, thanks to just more awareness, the hard work of journalists, press conferences, and even we're seeing celebrities and big figures on social media, expressing their concerns and having their voices heard to their large audiences and their large followings, showing people and telling people just how serious this is, to take this seriously, to stay indoors. And although you may be young and you don't have a pre existing condition, by you going outside, you could be infecting someone who is older, or is your grandparents or your parents, or somebody who has asthma, or susceptible immune system. So when I use the word selfish, it's almost like this attitude that you have to think about the others in the community and really come together and pull together as a community to keep everybody safe, even if you're not worried about yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's if for anybody watching this, what is your website so they can go and check out this blog? I thought it was very well written, and I think people should read this.
Oh, thank you. My blog, it's sarahtrottmedia.com, SARAHTROTT media.com. I also have a podcast as well, the From Here to Where podcast, and I kind of deep dive into this as well. This attitude of hedonism and the pursuit of pleasure. And LA is a very extravagant and over the top city. It's very normal for people to go out to bars and restaurants and clubs almost every night of the week, it seems. And so this is just a huge culture shift for people to be told they have to stay indoors. And so just coming to terms with the idea that it's not safe to go outdoors, that you can't see your friends, it's difficult for a lot of people who live in this city. And as a millennial, as a young person, I totally understand it. And I'm part of that group that had this perspective shift where I disregarded this as being very legitimate or serious, and then myself have become aware to the issues, and I'm trying to do my part as well in the community. And so give that blog a read, listen to the podcast, and I kind of deep dive into that. And then also my personal story, which we talked on your podcast, The Hungry
Exactly.
Mexican, about my dad, and why this affects me personally too.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think this is important. It hits close to home.
Totally. So, as we spoke on your podcast, my dad has ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. So that is, he's a doctor's textbook definition of who should be worried about this disease. He's 58 years old, but he's been battling this incredibly difficult disease for about 5 years now. You may have heard of it from the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge that brought a lot of awareness and funding for the disease. But it's worrisome because I can't go home and see him because although I feel healthy, I don't want to risk the chance of me infecting him with this virus. And so we know it's difficult to get tests. Tests are really just reserved at the moment for people who have been exposed to somebody with coronavirus or who are displaying the symptoms. And so, because as of now, at this point, I can't for certain say whether I'm carrying a strain of coronavirus or not. I'm just not going to go home to see him, which is difficult. I've been a caregiver for him and drive from LA to San Diego almost every week. And so when I see my peers or other people who are out and about and potentially spreading this disease by doing other than the non-essential day-to-day things, it hits me personally because people like my father or grandparents could be affected. And that's kind of how the story goes for a lot of people who have elderly loved ones they need to be concerned about. And so that's kind of where I'm at with this. It hits personally for me in some ways.
Yeah, same here. I've been unable to visit my own parents, and normally I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, so it's not too far from Los Angeles. So usually once a month now, I just go in and visit and check out the local scene there. But I'd like having breakfast, brunch with my mom and my dad, and just talking, but and having that physical contact in person. But it's been a little tough also for me to not go over there, because even though I feel healthy, who knows, I may not be as healthy as I thought, and I may be carrying this virus and hand it off to my parents or somebody else that I might be in contact with, gassing up or visiting a
Right.
grocery store or something. So I've had to just take a step back to and learn that um, you don't necessarily have to be um, um, that person that if you're feeling healthy, you got to go out and still party and do all that stuff. You got to be somebody that is not only protecting yourself, but in protecting yourself, you're protecting others. And just having that notion in my mind that if I'm just staying put in my home, even though I'm healthy, I may be potentially saving lives by not going out there. And I think that's the scary part about this virus is that it has a high rate of infection, and at the same time, it can be deadly to folks of a certain age or folks that have an underlying condition. And with the dense population that LA has, you just don't know if something you do is going to affect other people. And it just comes back to this order. In fact, I printed out. And I think my camera froze.
Oh,
Yeah. So
well,
let me.
and we're still on that point. I think it's incredible to have that order, but also I think it's important to get out and get fresh air. If you are in a neighborhood that isn't densely populated, and you can get out and do get some fresh air, because mental health is so important, more so than ever during this time, for people who are dealing with anxiety and stress, those who may have been furloughed or laid off from their jobs, people who are worried about the stock market or paying their rent or how their kids are going to get their next meal because they have relied on the schools to give them breakfast and lunch. So I think there is a lot of stress happening for people in Los Angeles as well. But that being said, even though we are not supposed to go out and do these non-essential things, I believe what is essential is, maybe getting some fresh air, staying your distance from others, but doing those things to prioritize your mental health.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna read just something here that I got from the LA mayor's office. And I'm actually what I'm gonna do is, as I'm reading this, I'm going to put up a link for more information here that anybody here can go to and just read more. If you have any more questions about what this order entails, you can actually visit this link right here on your screen. And I'm going to leave it up for the duration of what I'm going to read here. But again, this is from this is something that the mayor put out, Eric Garcetti. And just to reiterate a little bit of what you said, Sarah. So the bottom line, he says, residents of the city of Los Angeles are required to stay inside their homes unless they are engaged in certain essential activities. On those occasions when you are out of your home for necessary tasks, stay at least 6 feet away from others. So this is not a full-blown quarantine, like it was mentioned. This is, you can still go out, and you just have to practice what they're calling social distancing, staying at least 6 feet away from other people. But under this order, you can go to the grocery store, convenience, or warehouse store, go to the pharmacy to pick up medications and other healthcare necessities, go to medical appointments. Although for that, I would check with your doctor on a day-by-day basis if you have any elective surgeries. I know statewide they've asked certain surgeries to be put off, and that's a conversation you have to have with your healthcare provider and see what the best option is there. But you can go to medical appointments under this order. You can also go to a restaurant for takeout, delivery, or drive-through, care for or support a friend or family member, take a walk, ride your bike, hike, jog, be in nature for exercise. Again, just practice social distancing, keep 6 feet, stay 6 feet apart between you and the other person. Walk your pets and take them to the vet. So the vets are open for pets in case there's an emergency. And like I said earlier, pet stores are also open. You can help someone to get necessary supplies. That's really important, especially for those that can't necessarily go out or can't take care of themselves. You can do that. You can help them out as well. Just be careful. Here are some things you should not be doing under this order. Go to work unless you are providing essential services as defined by this order. Again, go to this link that you're seeing on your screen, and you can read the entire order and everything that it entails. You cannot visit family and friends if there is no urgent need. You should not maintain less than 6 feet of distance from others when you go out, and you should not visit loved ones in the hospital, nursing home, skilled nursing facility, or other residential care facility. So that's just some of the things that you cannot do. Obviously, there's a lot more, and that's why it's important to go to that website and stay informed. Yeah, so Sarah, let's talk a little bit about something like what we're doing right now, which is creating digital content. You said
Yeah.
that you've seen a spike in the rise of creative content that people are putting out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all seen it, TikTokers and YouTube and people starting their own channels. But I think it's exciting that we're seeing people using this time to get creative. And although we may be quarantined, we're still connected. And so, what a beautiful thing that we can live in this era where we have podcasts and we have the ability to order groceries that will arrive on our doorsteps, and that we can FaceTime loved ones, even though we may not be able to go visit them in their nursing homes or hospitals. I mean, there are so many things to be grateful for, despite the chaos and the uncertainty. There are silver linings through this, despite some scariness. I think it's important to remain positive and to just consider all of these uh, technological luxuries that we have in 2020. So even though this virus is scary, there are ways for people to come together, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, one of the things I love is creating content, and I've launched this live vlog, and I really want to thank you for actually participating in this live vlog. I think it's important to get perspective. Plus, it's less boring than if it was just me talking.
Well, I love it too. I mean, the digital age is just amazing. There are so many opportunities out there, and I'm so happy to be a part of this and to just spread positive information and share information with others. It's The industry is definitely changing, and it's cool to see how digital news is playing such an important role through all of this coronavirus coverage.
Exactly. Well, what are some of the things that you're doing, some of the projects that you're currently working on, and some of the things that maybe you're going to be doing while being at home due to this crisis?
Well, as of today, I decided that I want to really increase the health and fitness and wellness element of my blog and my brand. So I have my um, female entrepreneurial podcast where I interview powerful, successful boss babe women on their career stories. But I also want to move more into health and fitness space. So I've been creating at home workout videos for people who can no longer go to the gym to work out, and trying to find ways where I can inspire and motivate people at home during this time of unpredictability. And also, I think I'm going to do an online certification to become a fitness instructor. So I
Whoa.
have a credential there. I know, pretty big. And so I think now that I have all this time on my hands, I might try to become a certified fitness instructor. So
Wow. That's incredible. That's really awesome. Oh,
might as
and
well have a new
it looks like
skill.
my camera just froze again. That's I don't know. Well, at least it's a cheerful look.
Oh,
um,
there we go. Yeah, you look really amused.
I know. Um, but okay, that's excellent. Is there actually, what I wanted to ask was, what does your if you become a fitness instructor, what does that actually encompass besides just the physical? Is there like a mental component to this as well, or do you have to know a little bit about psychology? What's that
I, yeah, it's
certification
more of a
entail?
holistic approach. It depends where you get certified from. But yeah, I think, mental health is really important. Safety for group fitness, for personal training. There are kind of different avenues you can go down. And so I'm just starting to look into this process and to see what I want to do. But the psychology and the mental health aspect is really important to me. And so if I can pair that with uh, being a group fitness instructor or a personal trainer, I think just kind of having a holistic approach to it is kind of what I want to do. So I'm just at the very beginning stages. I have a lot of time on my hands, like everyone else. So I will be hopefully learning a new skill, taking on a new hobby, and continuing to put out digital content. And yeah, I posted this at home workout tutorial on my Instagram on IGTV, and it got so many views in one day, like way more views than any of my other videos that I've done. I've dabbled with fashion and just other things, and this one really stuck with my audience. So I think I'm going to pursue it.
Wow, very nice. What are some of the guests that you've had on your podcast?
Yeah, I've had an interesting variety of women, really diverse women from different ages, backgrounds, career paths. And so one of my favorites is actually my financial advisor. Her name is Jackie Mazer. She's in San Diego. And she was giving tips on what women need to know when they're starting their 20s on how to become financially independent and empowered in your finances and empowered as a woman and what that means to be financially stable. And so that was a fascinating interview just to hear from her on how she started her own financial advising company as a woman. It's a very male dominated industry. And so it was really interesting to hear from her what it's like to be a successful woman, also being a mother and a business owner, what it's like to balance a family. And then I'm also going to have her on early this week. I've set up another remote interview with her to bring her back on my show because I want to ask her. A lot of people are worried about the economy right now. People aren't sure what to do with their savings and their credit and their cash. And what does it mean when the Fed lowers interest rates? And what does that mean when, the stock market is tanking? There's a lot of uncertainty. And so she's going to answer a lot of those questions. So if anybody has any questions about that, I will be talking with her on Tuesday and can kind of do like an audience Q&A as well.
It's great that you're bringing that point up about. Well, first of all, you're still going on with your projects and with podcasts. Now, with the thing with podcast is, with your guests, usually there's like this component where you meet face to face and record. But because we've been in a way isolated to our homes, how are you tackling recording these podcasts with guests when you can't see them in person? What are you doing? What's that process like for you?
Well, I mean, it's all new to me because normally I've been recording in person. I have equipment, and for me, I prefer to record face to face. I feel like it's easier to have a more natural conversation when you're face to face, but we know that's not an option now. So I actually asked you, what do you recommend? Because I know you have done these remote interviews, but I think Zencaster, Skype, there are just so many tools at our fingertips. Again, that we're so lucky that we live in this time where we do have the ability to be face to face through a screen, maybe not in person, but can still put out content, inform people, inspire people, and use these tools to be productive. We have to, pivot a little bit and, get used to some new things, but everyone likes a challenge, right? Not everyone, but I do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, and no technology is perfect. I mean, as you've seen during this broadcast, my camera has frozen up several times, and I've had to troubleshoot that on the fly while we're live.
It happens.
Yeah, and so I've had to modify also my podcasting. I actually just interviewed somebody. There's going to be a new podcast episode of The Hungry Mexican released tomorrow. I interviewed this ASM artist, and we had to do it remotely. Now we were going to do it remotely either way because now she's in Ohio. She was in LA, but she moved to Ohio, so I just barely missed her. But with this whole situation and what's going on now, I have to basically people that I would normally meet in person. Now I have to get them in remotely. So yeah,
Yeah.
Zencaster is such a great tool because it does provide this amazing audio quality. But again, it all depends on the type of setup that the other person on the other end has. But there are these tools that help you continue on with your work. And I've been seeing, for example, the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. That's still going
Hmm.
on, and the way that he's managed to find a creative way of keeping that show alive during these times when the crew can't go and meet at the studio and have these nice fancy cameras. He's found a way to at least get his monologue out there, and it's actually really funny the way he's doing this. But he admitted he only has, yeah, he said he only has an iPad set up, and he uses the ear pods, and he just does his bit. And I'm sure other folks that again, this is why I love digital so much. You can do so much of it remotely. So you get the files, and then you just put it together, and then you send it out to wherever you need to, and then somehow it ends up at the broadcast station that sends it out to millions of people's homes. But just seeing him recording, not in the studio, just being pretty casual about just being at home and recording this. I mean, he was like creating a bonfire in his backyard and just telling his monologue or saying his
Wow.
monologue. And yeah, it was just very very creative. But I'm seeing all these folks in the entertainment business having to rearrange the way they do things, even in the news business, working remotely from home. It's not easy for many of these positions, but it is easy for a lot of the positions, especially if you're in the creative world, like you are.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting, having friends who are in the local TV business, my friends who are reporters and anchors, and just how they've had to adapt to new ways in order to, work from home and to call in for meetings and, how the show must go on, but how do you do it being as safe as possible? And again, using these digital tools that we have at our fingertips, it's pretty exciting and uncharted waters too. People are getting really creative and finding new ways, but I don't think it really diminishes the quality of work. I mean, yeah, you're not in a fancy studio like Stephen Colbert and his show. Maybe he's working from home, but I think nowadays people almost appreciate and relate to that kind of content more because it feels more authentic. It doesn't feel so, I guess, like, what's the word? It feels more casual and people can really relate to it. It's not like all of these, backdrops and big lights and cameras and scripted. I think we're kind of in an era where people like the more unscripted, raw, natural kind of content.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I think it's producing some really amazing work. It's like when they say the mother of invention is necessity, something like that. I hope I'm not butchering that saying.
That's
Um,
right. There you go. You and your quotes. You have great quotes.
well, no, it's just I just remember certain things when the time comes up. I think we discussed this in my podcast where I grew up watching movies, and there's always some kind of quote that stands out in any movie that you watch, and you get a lot of people reciting lines. But that's because, I mean, for example, Scarface, a lot of people still saying "say hello to my little friend." It's quotes that resonate with you, and you kind of forget about them, but they're in the back of your mind. So when something comes up, then you just, your mind is incredible at making that known and putting it at the forefront. But yeah, I've been noticing a lot of really cool content out there because of what's happening in content that may have not necessarily been put out anytime soon. So it's just amazing the stuff that I'm seeing out there. Is there something that
I,
yes, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I was going to say, I listened to a webinar the other day from one of my favorite entrepreneurial mentors. And she kind of did this Facebook Live where she was interviewing kind of an expert in the field of digital marketing, influencer marketing. And they were talking about how this is kind of a huge tectonic shift for businesses and influencers. And we're going to see certain small businesses or large businesses rather sink or swim during this time, whether or not you can adapt, if your business can adapt, or we're going to see influencers emerge in different areas and niches because people have this time on their hands to be creative and can elevate themselves to influencer status, or we'll see bigger businesses that maybe are too slow to turn around and can't find ways to make their businesses adapt and unfortunately go out of business. And then we may see other businesses rise to the top that were underdogs before, but have found a way out of necessity to deliver a need or deliver a product to people in a way that may have not been thought of before all of this coronavirus.
Exactly. I think it was just today I heard about the stock for Zoom going up. A lot of people are using
Yeah.
Zoom right now for meetings and other things.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something out there that you've seen that has stood out to you? It could be maybe a creative project. Somebody put something out there that you thought like, "Ooh, wow, that's cool. I wish I would have thought of that." It's just something that stands out to you that you've seen out there on social media or a website, anything creative.
I just think as kind of like at a macro level, what has really surprised me is the amount of people going to digital and putting out content. People who are now kind of breaking down that kind of insecurity and the shyness before to document your life. And people are now embracing it, and people are getting on TikTok. I'm seeing more people posting videos of themselves, people going live on Instagram and Facebook who they're not celebrities, they're not influencers, they're just everyday people, but they are noticing this mindset shift where it's acceptable and it's okay to go live and to document your life and to be candid and honest in your captions. And so I think at a macro level, we're seeing this big perspective shift and this huge avalanche of content that is just happening across digital platforms, which I think is really exciting and is going to have lasting effects in the digital world.
Well put. Sarah, I want to,
Mm-hmm.
before we wrap this up, I want to give you the last word. Is there anything that you wanted to add to this conversation that we didn't touch on?
I just would say stay safe and stay healthy. I think I just want to give a big thank you to all of the journalists out there, like you, Oscar, and just the people who are risking, their own well-being to provide coverage. And I know the journalism industry has been under attack, fake news, and we know all of that. And I think without getting too deep into that, I think it's important to realize the impact of journalists and how much we're relying on their coverage in times of need, like now. So I think it's just important for people to have an appreciation for the hard work of journalists and to stay informed and to stay educated as a way to stay healthy and safe and hopefully prevent the progress of this virus. Hopefully we can all shut this down together by staying informed and staying indoors.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for being on this live vlog where anything can happen. That's the beauty about
Anything
live.
can happen. You can be frozen. I can be frozen. It could shut off any minute. Technology,
Yeah.
we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm so glad that I had a chance to talk to you and see how you're doing, and also having your input, I think, on this vlog was very valuable, especially you that it's hit very close to home, but also what you're doing to kind of keep your spirits alive and your creativity alive. I think right now is the age where we do need a lot of this entertainment, especially now that the sports seasons have been suspended. You can't go to the movie theaters. You can't go to the gym. You can't do certain things that I think we took for granted. I do believe that after all this is said and done, then that I my hope is that people will appreciate what we've been given and the freedoms that we've been given now that these freedoms have currently been left out and taken out.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. There's a lot of positive things that can happen with the digital space. So great.
Exactly. All right, Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Stay safe. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye. All right. Thank you again for everybody that tuned in to this Facebook Live. And I'm actually going to upload this a version of this video as well up to our YouTube and other social media platforms. So you can always follow me on my social media, Instagram, O Flores News, and Twitter, O Flores, for anything. Well, especially my Twitter is just full of news updates on the coronavirus and other news as well. Instagram is a little bit more about what kind of like behind the scenes, kind of like what I'm doing at that time. In fact, I just decorated the Christmas tree, so I have that up. I have a picture of that on my Instagram account, so just go check that out. There's some pretty cool content there. I will come back with more of these live vlogs. It's the daily vlog, so I'm hoping that it stays daily. But I understand that I may be doing something one day, or who knows, my internet could go out the next day, or my computer may not be working right. So any number of things could happen that could prevent me from not doing this daily vlog. But for those that tune in, I really do appreciate it. Comment in the section below, see what you want to hear about next, or see about. This is mostly about just me and what we're doing together, myself, my guest, our viewers, during this pandemic when we're confined to our homes. So thank you again. Tuned in to the next vlog. There's not a specific time, so be sure to follow me on my page, on my social media accounts, and that way you won't miss the next time I go live. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Stay home. Be safe. Do get some fresh air every now and then. And Godspeed.